My name is Amy Isakov, and I will be your host today. And I am so thrilled to be present with Steve, a member of my soul family and distinguished teacher and guide, and to take a step toward living a more magical life in a more magical world. Steve is an award-winning author, teacher, and mythologist. He offers talks and classes to the public on creating and holding sacred space, the importance and use of myth, and how and why having fun and taking right action are key to personal growth and planetary evolution. He strives to help people become their own hero on their hero's journey. Steve-O has 30 years of personal experience and tutelage with several prominent spiritual teachers, including Wallace Black Elk, Jack Schwartz, Lakota Elder Jim Miller, and Don Oscar Miro Quesada. Each of these teachers stressed practical application of the spiritual into daily life, or as Don Oscar says, to grow corn and potatoes. Some of you may already know all of this about Steve-O, and some of you may be new to his radiant and humorous presence. So without further ado, I would love to welcome Steve-O to the call. Steve, welcome.
Thank you so much, Amy. It truly is a privilege to talk with you this morning, and I'm so grateful to have all the other people on the line. I welcome you to my home office. Thank you.
Oh, wonderful. So we'll have about an hour together. So we'll get started with creating a medicine piece in a few moments. And then at the end of the call, I will be sharing with you how you can make an even bigger commitment to your own evolution and a bigger commitment to creating that more magical world by continuing to learn with Steve-O through his upcoming course, Befriending Sacred Space. Now, if you are someone who likes to read along and jump ahead and see what that offer is, you are welcome at any time during our session today to type into your browser the website where you can find all the information about this course. And the website is www.steveguttermann.com/befriending-sacred-space. And we will definitely put that in writing for you so that it will be easier to see and click on. Now, in today's presentation, though, Steve-O will share, as I mentioned, how to create a medicine piece. This process has an immense potential to increase your energetic life force, teach you how to channel that life force energy into an item of your choice and to hold that energy, which will develop a stronger practical relationship with, quote, good medicine, which, as Steve reminds us, good medicine is a term used to mean, in a generic indigenous way, benevolent energy. With the awakening of humanity cottoning on quicker and quicker, there are no shortages of guides and teachers. And one of the reasons that Steve-O here is so well suited to share his good medicine is because he has an impeccable ability to impart big ideas in a simple way, which you will all get a taste of in just a few minutes. He has a gift of making things practical, applicable, and accessible so that we can all rekindle the soul of this planet we all share, and also that space between us, the mythic space. Now, chances are, if you're here already, you have some experience or interest in working with the forces of the world around us, in building your relationship with this soul animated cosmos that we share. And maybe you don't really know how to get started, or maybe you know how to do it, but you don't know how to share that with anybody else. So Steve-O will make a lot of these tools accessible to you in just a little bit here. Now, I'd like to give Steve-O a chance to speak a bit about why he's doing this, why he's sharing this course at this time, and really what has prepared him to do so. So, Steve-O, can you just take a few moments and share about what inspires you to do this work?
I sure will. Thank you, Amy, for all of that. You know, we are in a time right now where people are really opening up, as you said, Amy, to new ideas and new energies. And part of expanding our view, our perception, an expanded worldview, so to speak, is to really interact more intimately with our planet. So, simply put, to keep our beautiful planet beautiful. And another thing that our modern life tends to do is to separate us from that natural beauty. By beginning to interact in a more intimate / magical way, we can reconnect with really the things that give us life. Technology supports life, but it doesn't really give us life the way that I look at it. And then, simply put, some of these medicine practices actually help us to have a better relationship with the technology that does support our life. I think one of the ways to look at it is like this. If it's a cold winter morning and you press your remote to start the car to warm it up so that you can run outside with a light jacket on, get in your car and drive off, you're not really experiencing what's out there. However, you could think of magic as being the warm clothing on a cold morning, not the light jacket so that you run away from something. Magic is like the warm clothing where you can go outside and experience and enjoy what's there. There's no reason to hide or run or buffer ourselves from what's around us. And so when I'm talking about becoming more intimate with the things that give us life, it's, as I said, by way of an analogy, it's like wearing warm clothing on a cold day so you can really enjoy what's around you. So those things together are parts of the reasons to protect our beautiful world, to interact with it more intimately. And finally, I think probably most of us would agree that children in their own and inimitable way bring a lot of magic into our lives. As adults, I think that it would be so cool if we also bring magic into their life. And these practices, these ways, sometimes it's just the attitude, can help us do that. That's it.
Brilliant. So could you also speak, really directly to the listeners, some of whom are likely experienced on their journeys, on their spiritual path? Do you speak directly how these tools, this warm jacket to endure the cold, how are these tools that you're going to share, how can it help them access something new?
That's a very good question. Through the interaction of really being able to, you could say, experience a wider range of environment, a wider range of energy. Again, not trying to discount the benefits of our technological world, but that usually buffers us from so much of the interactions that give us life. And so when people feel that maybe something is missing from their life, frequently it's connection, it's intimacy, it's involvement. And these ways tend to just open up new possibilities. And what makes them, I think, so good is that they really work upon the individuality of the person. In other words, there is the aspect of the unknown. Where's this going to take me? Where's this going to take me, Steve? I have no idea. But what I can say is that it will probably help you enjoy life much, much more and help you find more meaning and purpose and thrill in the everyday.
Wonderful. It sounds like there's a lot of possibility, and I know that you asked people to come to this call with, something unique to them, and so it sounds like there's really room for people to get what they need, not necessarily something specific, which I think is always a good sign that magic is afoot.
There you go.
So before we, set the stage for you to teach this process of creating a medicine piece, I would love for you to share a bit of your own personal story about how, you came to this work. And, without having to get too much into it, I'd love if you could share how, your own spiritual journey has led to where you are now.
Thank you. Well, probably one of the more profound experiences happened way back in 1979, which was the first time that I did a sweat lodge with Lakota elder Wallace Black Elk, who you mentioned in your introduction. And this was in Ashland, Oregon. I had moved out there a couple of years before and was associated with Southern Oregon State College at the time in Ashland. And Wallace kind of just showed up to begin teaching some of his Lakota ways. So I went to where he was, to where his camp was, where the lodge was, and just showed up one night. And I mean, the magic of that area as I walked through the trees and walked through a path in the darkness, and all of a sudden turned the corner and there was a big fire burning in the lodge. I mean, stuff that I had never experienced before, which has become familiar to me now, but no less astounding. Anyway, that greeted me, and I'm like, wow, what is this? I mean, you could feel it. Wallace was a huge man, and his heart, his love was as big as he was. So we go into the lodge, and the rocks are brought in, and I mean, they are hot. They are the color of lava. I had no idea that rocks could get hot like that. And as we were sitting in there, Wallace said, "When you come into the lodge, this is like being in kindergarten." And immediately I thought, "Oh, come on, Wallace, I got to be at least in first grade." I thought I was pretty advanced. I realize now that, it's one of these things when the more you learn, the more you realize that you really don't know very much at all. So at about the same time, also in Ashland, Oregon, I met Jack Schwartz. And Jack Schwartz was one of the first Westerners who was demonstrated to have a lot of the same abilities as some of the Indian yogis, gurus. And because he was a Westerner, science basically was astounded that somebody outside the Eastern culture could do what he could do. And yet he was considered to be one of the most profound human energy, mind-body teachers in the world, especially 60s, 70s, 80s, probably even on up into the 90s. And in time, Jack and I had a working relationship, and I worked with him at his foundation, the Alethea Foundation, outside of Ashland, Oregon. Began to do a lot of writing and other teaching in association with him. So that went on several years, and then I moved to Montana, where I am now. And in time, I met another Lakota elder by the name of Jim Miller, and then began to take up some of the traditional ways again. And it is almost unfathomable for a non-native person to realize what especially an American Indian goes through to share his or her sacred ways with non-Indians. It takes a tremendous amount of love, and sometimes even bucking their own culture in order to share these ways. And so you begin to realize that, my gosh, there's a lot of love behind all this, behind this sharing, because that's what it is. And so through Jim Miller, I experienced not only sweat lodges, but also other Lakota ceremonies. And in time, met our dear friend, Don Oscar Miro Quesada, who brings, of course, so much love and information, not only from the indigenous world, but truly, literally, from the stars. And so all of these influences together have helped me hopefully create, not so much create, but be true to some of the teachings that I've gotten, with the idea that the reason why we are taught what we are taught is not to keep them to yourself, but to pass them on. And so I'm trying to do that now.
Oh, beautiful, Steve. I really appreciate how you brought in the that perspective of how many Indigenous people have had to work so hard and endure so much, and sometimes at great risk to themselves. They have been willing to bring these teachings outside of their traditional settings to reach Westerners like us, so that the memory of our connection with all our relations can be something that we all function from.
Right.
Something that we all relate to. So I really appreciate that you brought that in, and what an incredibly rich tapestry of lineages you are influenced by. And I trust that this mentality of being in kindergarten is something that we can keep with us. There's some simple rules of how we relate to each other, and simple, maybe less than rules and more understandings of what it takes to get along with each other, that if we don't learn in kindergarten, it's going to be a pretty rough road. So thank you for the opportunity to return to that childlike mindset of freedom to explore, freedom to be curious, and to love so openly all the things that call to us, that draw to us, perhaps such as a medicine piece. Now that we've had a chance to hear a bit about you and where you come from and why you're inspired to bring this work, I would love to get to it, to creating a medicine piece. So I'm going to just step to the side here, turn this over to you to walk us through the process of creating a medicine piece. And just before we do that, I want to remind folks, if they'd like to read a bit more information about the framework for this, that anyone can go to the website www.steveguettermann.com/creating medicine pieces. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Amy. And just to address a little bit the kindergarten concept, because it is important. And I think it's important for us to consider that child's play and shamanic work can be really, really closely related, because it really is about those things that you mentioned. It's about having fun, being curious, being open, being receptive. One of the other things that I do is I teach critical thinking, if you can teach such a thing, at Montana State University. And frequently I hand out this little sheet on the opening class that says everything I need to know I learned in kindergarten, and let the students read that and comment on that. Of course, it has such things as, hold hands, take naps, eat cookies, which I really like. But it's also certain things like, play, clean up your own mess, look both ways. And it's the looking both ways, developing this awareness, which is really looking all ways, that we're going to get into a little bit now. So one of the comments on creating the medicine piece, and what we will do today, and we will get into this shortly, is that, in my opinion and experience, I'm going to show one of the little pieces that I brought here right now, which is a little bright in this camera, which is a medicine bear. And I'll tell you a little story about this later. But when it comes to creating medicine pieces, to me, frequently this creative aspect comes in three main ways. And that is that you can make something yourself from scratch, with the intent of it being a medicine piece, a piece used for ritual and prayer. It can be something that you are given or gifted or find, where maybe you begin to learn its history, and its inherent qualities. And then the other thing is that frequently when you have a piece such as this, and you begin to work with it, bring attention to it with that good medicine aspect. It almost is like it's like a flame that draws moss, and that is that there are energies and forces that are attracted to it and go, oh, there's somebody here doing something fun. Let's check it out. See what he or she is doing. And you begin to develop that relationship, you could say, with these unseen entities, these forces, these powers, these energies. And, again, in a sweat lodge experience, we can get quite familiar with some of these entities and energies. And one of the things that they really do help you do is to keep you true, to keep you authentic, and to keep you, I guess you could say, honest. And so what I'll do today is, we're not necessarily going to be making anything specifically, but if you brought something with you, what we will do is that we are going to use our energy, our human energy, to begin to imbue your medicine piece with even more. And basically, you can think of it as awakening it to your presence and to other benevolent energy that it might attract. So you can think of this as an awakening exercise towards creating these medicine pieces. Does that help at all, Amy? Does that give a little bit more background?
Yeah, I think that's pretty clear. So what you're saying is that the process here can be applied to other medicine pieces, and also that this is both an imbuing and also a beckoning forth from the piece, its soul and its spirit, so that really the relationship gets built. Is that right? Is that my understanding you properly?
I think you said it much better than I did. So thank you. So even though I've asked people to have a piece nearby, we're going to give you a couple of moments to get that if you haven't gotten it yet, and to get settled. I am sitting at a desk, of course, where I have the desk in front of me, and so I can have my medicine piece close by. And I suggest that you be someplace where you can be comfortable and have your medicine piece close by. If you have a table or a stand nearby, that's good. If you put a pillow on your lap and put your medicine piece on the pillow, just so you have it nearby. And I would suggest that you not hang on to it for the first part of this exercise, and then we will pick it up later. So let me just get a little sip of water here while everybody gets settled.
And just a reminder for folks listening that if you don't have your piece with you at present, we will send you a recording so you can go back and do this process when you've got the right space and time in your life.
Okay, thank you. So I think we're going to put up a little inspirational picture, although you probably have your eyes closed during most of this. Let's see if okay. So with everyone settled, just get relaxed. Take a few breaths on your own. If you have shoes on, if you can take those off, that would be great. So you can be sitting on a chair, you can be sitting on the floor. The main thing is just to get comfortable and have your piece near you, but don't hold on to it just yet. Close your eyes and envision a ray of white light coming into the top of your crown, the top of your head. If its color changes, just let it change. And sense the incoming energy for a moment. Take a breath and exhale completely. Now inhale and pull oxygen energy from your crown all the way down to the base of your spine and hold your breath. Let that energy pool, circulate in your pelvic area. Keep holding your breath as you allow this energy to rise up to your heart, then to your brow, your forehead. As you exhale, exhale that energy out your brow and your hands. We'll do this 2 more times. Inhale energy through the top of your head. Pull it down to the base of your spine and hold your breath. Allow it to pool and circulate in your pelvic area. Now let it rise to your heart area and then to your brow, your forehead. As you exhale, exhale that energy out your brow and hands. Again, inhale energy through the top of your head. Pull it down to the base of your spine and hold. Allow it to pool and circulate in your pelvic area. And again, let it rise to your heart area and then to your brow, your forehead. As you exhale, exhale that energy out your brow and hands. Now we'll pull energy up from the earth. Take a breath and exhale completely. If your feet are flat on the floor, or if you're sitting on the floor, that's great. If not, imagine a connection with your feet and tailbone or perineum to the earth. As you inhale, pull energy up through your feet and tailbone area. Hold your breath and allow that energy to pool and fill your pelvic area. Let it rise to your heart and exhale again out your hands and forehead. Do again. Inhale, pulling up earth energy through your feet and tailbone area. Let it pool in your pelvic area and hold. Now allow that energy to rise up to your heart. Exhale again out your head and hands, out your forehead and hands. Last time. Inhale, pulling up energy from the earth. Hold it in your pelvic area. Allow it to rise to your heart. And exhale out your hands and forehead. Now we're going to amplify this energy. So pull it in simultaneously from the top of your crown, from your feet and tailbone or perineum, as well as directly into your heart as you inhale. So visualize energy coming in from 4 directions: above, below, from the front and back of your heart. Now put your hands with palms facing one another about a foot apart or so. Take a breath and exhale completely, keeping your hands about a foot apart. Now inhale and allow the energy from all 4 directions to pool and collect in your heart area, from your head, from your feet, your perineum, and in front and behind your heart. Allow all this energy to pool and collect in your heart area and hold. Now powerfully exhale out your hands and forehead. Allow energy to come out of your hands and forehead like water from a hose. Keep turning up the volume as you work your hands back and forth. Work your hands back and forth. You may feel a magnetic tension or force between your hands. We'll do this 2 more times. Inhale from 4 directions and hold in the heart area. Exhale with power coming out your hands and forehead. Turn the energy release volume even more. Turn it up even more. Keep working your hands back and forth. Move your hands around as if you were packing a snowball. Last time. Inhale from all 4 directions. Hold in the heart area. Exhale with even more power out your hands and forehead, allowing all the energy to be held between your hands as you exhale. Work your hands back and forth. Now just breathe normally as you keep working this energy back and forth. Now pick up your medicine piece, please. Sense how it wants to be handled. Depending upon what you have and where you are, put the piece in front of you on a table or desk or on your lap or on a pillow on your lap. Or even keep it in your hands and imbue it with all the energy flowing out of your hands and forehead now. So if you can have your medicine piece in front of you, just inhale, exhale that energy out your hands and forehead and just keep working it, directing it into your medicine piece in a good way. Sense it receiving it. Take a 4-direction breath as before and hold. Turn the volume up and exhale out your hands and forehead into your medicine piece. We'll do this 1 more time. Take a 4 directions breath again and hold it in your heart area. Exhale again, increasing the amplitude out of your hands and forehead into that medicine piece in a way that really awakens it. Now, with your energy still flowing, if you don't have your piece in your hands, pick it up if possible. And again, sense how it wants to be handled. Sense how the piece is responding to you. Tell the piece your name. Introduce yourself. Ask what his or her name is. Sense something about it. How it was created. How it came to you. What feeling does it give you? And again, sense how the piece is responding to you. Begin to sense how it wants to be used. As each of us has a purpose, our medicine pieces have a purpose as well. Now, consciously, give a gift of more of your life energy to your medicine piece. Exhale completely. Take a 4-direction breath and allow the energy to again pull in your heart area. Exhale energy out of your hands and forehead, consciously imbuing the piece with your power. You are waking it up gently, lovingly, helping to make it conscious, helping to make it attractive. In a way, you are attracting its own consciousness to its physical body. Now thank the piece for anything you have received. Hold it between your hands, put it up to your forehead as you say thank you, like how cats will rub their heads against one another, a way of recognition and affection. Take a breath, hold, and now blow into that piece. And relax. Continue to hold the piece or put it down gently. On the count of 3, open your eyes. 1, feel aware of your good connection with the piece. 2, relax and feel at peace. 3, slowly open your eyes. And if you haven't put the medicine piece down, you can do it again. You can do it now. Just relax for a moment. This is one way how right relationship is begun and maintained, through contact, interaction, this intimacy from sharing one's energy and breath. In the indigenous way of being, there really are no inanimate objects. There's only animate ones. And their life force can be increased and decreased by how they are treated. This is a key concept of the magical world, is that there are no inanimate objects. So, we can all come back together again.
Thank you so much, Steve.
You're welcome.
I'd love to ask you a few questions about the process that you just led before we take a deeper dive into what you'll be offering folks in your upcoming course. And if some of what I'm about to ask you is going to be covered in the course, feel free to just, lead me that way. So, in my experience of taking this, small journey towards really connecting to the piece, I found myself wondering, now that I've built this connection with a piece, what's the best way to honor that relationship? What should I do with my medicine piece now?
Well, that's a good question. And I'm glad you asked it. Part of this is again that ongoing relationship and to pay attention to one another. So one of the things that probably some people have, not many people have, is an altar space for their sacred objects, for their medicine pieces. And so what I do periodically is smudge them with sage, which I was going to do at the beginning of our exercise, and to be perfectly honest, I forgot, but it's also good to do it at the end of it, so I'm glad you brought that up. So, to smudge a piece, you can even take it with you on hikes. I mean, there are certain things that I've almost carry with me all the time on hikes, and it's like, yeah, they like to go places too. It's developing that relationship. It's the feeling of it. It tells you how it wants to be used, how it wants to be cared for. So asking, this is what's partly missing in our conversations with one another, is simply asking. So when I did this exercise earlier with this piece that I used today, for example, and I asked it how it wanted to be used, just spontaneously, this picture of like a golden grizzly bear came up. So this piece is like a symbol for that living energy of bear medicine. And so bear medicine has a lot of different qualities. And this one said quickly, and this is it when you want to really acknowledge your intuition and that insight as it comes to you really right off. And this one said, protector, I'm your protector. It's like, okay, that means that, when I'm out in grizzly country, which we do have, fortunately, in Montana and Canada, through right relationship and doing the right things, hopefully I will continue to have a good relationship with bears. In other words, we'll stay out of one another's way. That's really some of the best protection you can have, is that you stay out of one another's way. That's a way of protecting one another. So, as I said, it's talking, it's having communication, it's getting quiet and listening is probably some of the best ways to answer your question, which was really a long answer.
It was just right, Steve-O, just right. So, you've mentioned a lot of different possibilities for what these pieces are, and a lot of, sort of alluded to different practices, talking about stillness. You mentioned an altar. And I was, acquainting myself with this course that you have coming up that starts Thursday, February 1st, and it'll be at 5 p.m. Pacific. And it looks like such an user-friendly access to some really foundational principles and practices that we can use to bring these qualities into our lives that we long for. I mean, I can't imagine there are people who wouldn't benefit from a bit more protection, even if it's, protection from the experience of watching the news. Maybe not all of us have the natural threats in our environment that we would need protection from, but there are certainly ways that we could go through our world to feel more connected and safer so that we can be, really, really ourselves. And I would love if we could just go through, the 5 weeks so that people who feel called to step more firmly onto the shamanic path, more deeply into this path of relating to this animated world we live in, so that they know exactly what the opportunity is here and how to access it. So it's a 5-week course. There are 5 sessions, and each one will build upon the next, and you've got some great practices for people to do throughout the week. So week 1 is called Creating Sacred Space. Now, Steve-O, at any time as I'm going through this, if you want to jump in and share something that you're particularly excited about, or if I missed something, please just jump in, add on, and we'll weave it in. So week 1 is Creating Sacred Space. And this is, the overview is just preparing to practice through purification and through ritual, setting aside that space and time to sit inside space and time, to impact space and time. I love the multidimensionality and the wordplay that you bring in here, Steve-O. It's really reminds us not to take ourselves too seriously when we're doing this really very important work. And you have a meditative practice and journey that you'll lead each week, and then those will be accessible for people to re-listen to and go back into, so they can really entrain themselves to this way of relating to the world.
Right. And to capitalize upon that a little bit, so especially this first week will amplify part of the exercise that we just did today. So where we concentrated on awakening a medicine piece today, during that first class, we will do an even more, I hope, activating energy or exercise of the human energy system to then project into your sacred space area, your altar area, or whatever space that you may be able to set aside. And I guess that's probably one of the key things, an area that maybe you can set aside for this type of practice. So I just wanted to add that.
Brilliant. Yeah, so I know a lot of people are looking to do that, and making a commitment to an online course like this can be sometimes the support or boost we need to actually do it, right? Step out of that would be a good idea, and hey, well, let's experience what this would actually be like. Now, week 2 you titled Reducing Mixed Messages, and I love this. I mean, this is something that is so pervasive in our communication with each other, with the world around us, and the idea of sinking deeply into the clarity of not only what we are putting out into the world, but learning to discern what it is that's coming to us feels so liberating. And it feels like there could be a real deep dive into understanding of, how the universe speaks there. Whew.
Well, I'm glad that resonated with you. It's yeah, we send, I think, mixed messages to one another quite a bit, and our environment sends them to us. And one of the suggestions that a lot of people make, especially when developing your intuition, and that is to trust that first impulse or that first insight that comes to you and to not question it. There are ways to test to see whether or not that is appropriate for you. But there are basically two types of questioning you could think of. And one is the what I call the low amplitude questioning of, should I or shouldn't I? Like, should I go to the mall and have a hamburger or should I go to the mall and get Chinese food? Kind of low stakes questioning. And then there's the high stakes questioning of being receptive to the larger environment and asking, what are you trying to tell me? Is this accurate? How does that really make me feel? And so to sense it on a whole mind body level rather than just, what should I have for supper kind of questioning. So I hope that maybe I've differentiated that certain types of questioning help you to send a clear message because your question is clear. If your question's not clear, what you're picking up is probably going to be kind of muddled too. So these exercises are designed to help clarify. I don't even want to say two-way communication. I would like to say multi-way communication because I can't even tell you where it all comes from.
Yeah. I'm grateful that there is going to be a 90-minute class on that particular topic, because I can feel just in the few, minutes that we have spent on this topic already, there just feels like so many levels to sort out, not just the, low amplitude questions and those big questions, but also you brought in the senses versus, maybe a decision and the mind and body and all of these things. And, week 3, you really move, you move into that deep place of letting go. And so that you can establish, a solid ground on which to, work and discern these lessons, right? So you called week 3 is befriending our lessons. And you get into a bit of a paradoxical relationship between surrender and non-attachment, and also, of course, being fully in our power.
Right.
And I don't want to go too much into that now because, again, I want to be respectful of people's time here today. And it feels juicy and like a real deeper dive into taking these things out of concepts and ideas and really into something that we can incorporate into our lives, into our hearts, and into how we operate in the world. Because, of course, there's creating sacred space, but as we mentioned at the beginning, this is about not just, creating a little corner of our world that has magic, but restoring our relationship with the magical world.
Excellent. Exactly. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So to, bring the weeks to their penultimate moment, you have titled week 4, One with the World at Home in the Wild. And this touches on a very core issue for so many people, no matter where we live, whether we're in an urban environment, a rural environment, or somewhere in between. For many of us, life is detached from the natural world and the consciousness of our planet. And Steve, you said, I made a note here during that process that you just led us through. You said that, part of bringing energy into the piece is that it attracts its own consciousness to that piece.
Right.
And in that dance, in that relationship, it feels well, humbling, frankly, to start to engage at that level. And it really brings in a lot of life and the, the idea that you can really teach us how to strengthen that relationship with the natural world, both seen and unseen, feels like such a gift, not only to the individual who decides to sign up for this course and take this deeper dive into this magical world, but for all the people in that individual's life.
Right.
And then week 5, you have titled Disciplined Imagination, which is for kindergartners of all ages. And you get into some pretty rich topics here. I'll just read for a moment the overview of week 5 here. You say, imagination creates and has created the physical laws we live by. Within the context of these laws, just how limited or unlimited are we? And you say that sacred space is really a potential catalyst. Now, just reading those few lines catapults me into an existential consideration of what do I know, what do I not know, what's real, what's not real, and if my imagination or our imagination has created the physical laws we live by, well, I mean, what might we create? What might be possible in the future here? And then, everybody's time is so precious these days, and you're getting into such deep topics. And as a bonus session for all of this, you are hosting just a Q&A time.
Right.
Around the fire with Steve Guettermann. People can ask their questions, sort out what's been coming up for them, and really have a lot of access to you. And, each class you mentioned will be at least 60 minutes, may go longer depending on how many questions there are. So every session will have live Q&A.
Right.
And if people would like to register for Befriending Sacred Space, they'll also receive several bonuses which complement the program and really enrich the experiences. And so if people sign up for this class, which they can do at steveguettermann.com/befriending-sacred-space, and I'm going to spell Guettermann for you all. Actually, I'm going to have Steve do it. Steve, will you please slowly spell your last name for all of our listeners so that they can find you out there and on Befriending Sacred Space?
Thank you, Amy. Yeah, it's steveguettermann.com. Steve, Steve, Guettermann, Guettermann. So it's Steve Guettermann, all one word. That's GUETTERMANN.com. Believe me, I've had a hard time with it over the years myself.
And we'll be sure to put that in writing in an email we send you after this too, so that you'll have an easy reference. And if you find this really compelling, it'll be easy to share it with your friends too, without having to worry about spelling out such a long name, which may be super familiar and easy for many of you to spell too. So if you sign up for this course, which starts February 1st at 5 p.m. Pacific, runs for 5 weeks, you will get 5 recordings of each session, so you can attend live and ask your questions, and of course revisit them as many times as you like. You'll also get follow-up medicine practices and resources. So after each session, Steve-O is going to send you things to read, practices to do throughout your week so that you can support the integration of these teachings into your life and really take them on as your own. Steve-O mentioned earlier, I'm not sure actually if it was on this call or when we were talking a bit earlier, but you spoke about how, part of our job right now is to really share this medicine. It's not for us just to keep for ourselves, but it's really to go out into the world, to ripple out and to spread that, for people to know that this is possible, for people to know that this is an option to share a deep relationship with our animated world in a way that creates more possibility and hope for our times.
Yep.
Steve, you're also going to have a Sacred Space Facebook group so that people can stay connected to each other throughout the week, and you'll be in there responding and supporting questions that people have. Is that right?
Correct. Yep. And hopefully there'll be interaction among the participants as well. Yep.
Wonderful. Yeah. So it's a space for you to connect with other people who are interested in the same things that you are, you know.
Maybe their medicine pieces are going to jump in as well. That'd be great.
Oh, Facebook for your medicine piece. I like this. A possible direction to go.
Yeah.
And yeah, it looks like you'll also get 4 downloadable guided meditations with breathing exercises, and also a 12-month inspirational PDF 2018 calendar. So you'll have a little reminder that you can hang in your home about, how to anchor your intention and attention throughout this course and really throughout the year. So you get the 5 recordings, weekly follow-up practices, 6 weeks of support on the private Facebook group for befriending sacred space, that bonus week of question and answer, and the guided meditations and breathing exercises you can also download, and that calendar. And the value of all of this is $554. However, if you register now through February 1st, you will, if you register now, your investment is only $49. $49, and you have 5 weeks of in-depth training, personal attention, community connection, and recordings that you can go back and revisit to really learn life skills. I mean, Steve, I feel like in the way that you teach, you're really giving people something that they can carry with them throughout, and it really becomes their own. And before we move to close, it looks like I want to give you a chance to talk about your book. You offer a pretty neat discount here. So if people register by February 1st, it's $49. And if they register after February 1st, the cost goes up to $64. However, if they, after February 1st, if you register for the course, Befriending Sacred Space, and you buy Steve-O's book, you'll get a credit for the class. And the book is titled, How to Get Even with the Universe by Getting Right with the World, Working Within Sacred Space and Time. So Steve-O, could you just take a moment and share briefly how the book complements the course?
Sure, Amy. I think one of the first things I want to stress is that the course is not a rehash of the book, but there are several chapters in the book that I think will accentuate and support what it is that we'll do in the class. So they do really complement one another really well. And what I'm trying to do with the book is maybe rephrase a little bit of what Amy just said, and that is that the course is $49 before February 1st if you buy the book first. So buy the book from Amazon.com and get the course for $49, or don't buy. Basically, don't buy the book and pay $64 for the course. That's basically what it is. So, so part of the weekly medicine practices, not all, but part of the weekly medicine practices will come from the book, but it's not, required. It's just strongly suggested because I think it would bring more to the class, and probably more to the question and answer session. That's really, I think, maybe the biggest thing. So I hope that helps, Amy. If you have another question on that, I'll try and answer.
Yeah, no, that helps. And I know that people learn in all different ways. And so some people might get more from being able to read some of these concepts or some of the reflections or expand them, whereas some people will do a lot better watching you weekly on video. And of course, these are very complementary mediums and complementary body of work. So to close our space today, Steve-O, I would love to hear what you're most excited for people to receive from this course, should they decide to sign up?
You know, I'm glad we saved this for the end, because what I feel at it is that whether you take this course or not, it's important for all of us to have more magic in our life. And the way I look at it is like this, is that without magic, we live in a closed system where everything has to just come from the earth. And that's kind of the system we have now, where we are really asking too much of our planet to sustain us. So without magic, we live in a closed system. With magic, we live in an open system where our support comes from the cosmos as well as the planet. So that's really, I think, the essence of what we're trying to offer is let's open up the system. Let's open up these energies. Let's support ourselves in such a way so that we don't have to squeeze our beautiful little planet out of shape and give our children a distorted place to live, but rather we give our children a beautiful, balanced, harmonious, magical place to live. That's what I hope.
Oh, beautiful. Well, thank you so much for your time, Steve-O, and thank you all for joining us today. We hope that your medicine pieces are happy and buzzing. And if you would like to continue the journey of working with medicine pieces in this way and befriending sacred space as something that you can incorporate into your walk on this beautiful planet of ours, then please join us for Befriending Sacred Space, which again starts Thursday, February 1st at 5 p.m. Pacific. And you can find all the information and register at www.steveguttermann.com/befriending-sacred-space. And as I mentioned before, we will put that in an email so that it is easy to find and to share. Thank you, everyone.